Every case in this video was officially ruled an accident. Police reports were filed. Causes of death were determined. Files were closed. And yet, in every one of these cases, the evidence left behind raised questions that were never fully answered. These are not rumors or theories. These are real investigations that authorities concluded, even though not everyone was convinced. This is 5 files. What connects all 5 files is not how the victims died, but how quickly each case was labeled accidental, despite details that did not entirely fit the conclusion. File 5 begins with a death that was ruled simple, even though it appeared anything but. In January of 2013, the body of Eliza Lamb was discovered inside a water tank on the roof of the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. Authorities determined her death to be an accidental drowning. According to the official report, she had accessed the roof alone and entered the tank herself. However, the circumstances leading up to her death raised immediate questions. Surveillance footage released to the public showed Eliza behaving erratically inside an elevator, gesturing as if interacting with someone who was not visible. Investigators stated that no evidence of foul play was found, yet guests at the hotel had complained about low water pressure and discolored water in the days before her body was discovered. Access to the roof was reportedly restricted, and the tank lids were said to be heavy and difficult to move. Despite these concerns, the case was closed as accidental. File 5 was concluded, even as public doubt continued. File 4 involves a death that authorities described as a tragic accident, while the family involved insisted critical evidence was ignored. In 2013, Kendrick Johnson was found deceased inside a rolled-up gym mat at his high school in Georgia. The official conclusion was accidental positional asphyxia, suggesting he had climbed into the mat and became trapped. Investigators stated there was no evidence of homicide. However, the condition of the body, along with inconsistencies noted by independent pathologists hired by the family, raised questions about the timeline and cause of death. Photographs taken during the investigation circulated widely, intensifying public scrutiny. Multiple autopsies reached conflicting conclusions. Despite this, authorities maintained the accidental ruling and declined to reopen the case. File 4 was closed, though disagreement surrounding the evidence never fully disappeared. File 3 is a case where the line between accident and intention was never clearly defined. In May of 2006, Ray Rivera's body was found inside an abandoned room of a Baltimore hotel after an apparent fall from a nearby structure. The death was classified as a suicide or accidental fall. Investigators stated there were no signs of a struggle. However, the physical evidence raised questions. The hole in the roof through which Rivera was believed to have fallen was narrow and oddly positioned. His personal belongings, including his phone and glasses, were found undamaged nearby. Family members questioned how Rivera could have reached the point from which he fell. Colleagues noted his behavior in the days leading up to his death had been unusual. Despite unanswered questions, the case was closed without further investigation. File 3 remains officially resolved. The doubts persist. File 2 is not a single death, but a pattern. Across multiple cities in the United States, dozens of young men were found deceased in rivers and bodies of water, often near areas where they had last been seen socializing. In each case, authorities ruled the deaths accidental drownings, frequently attributing them to intoxication. However, similarities between the cases led some to question whether they were truly unrelated. Law enforcement agencies denied any connection between the incidents, stating there was no evidence of foul play or coordinated activity. Families and independent investigators pointed to repeated patterns in locations, victim profiles, and circumstances. Despite public concern, the official position remained unchanged. Each case was treated individually, classified as accidental, and closed. File 2 exists not as a single mystery, but as a collection of unresolved questions. File 1 brings all the others into focus. In February of 1959, 9 experienced hikers died under mysterious circumstances in the Ural Mountains. In what became known as the Dyatlov Pass incident, the official conclusion described the deaths as the result of an unavoidable natural force. The case was classified and closed, yet the evidence documented in the investigation told a more complicated story. The hiker's tent was found cut open from the inside. Footprints indicated they fled into freezing conditions without proper clothing. Several victims had severe internal injuries. Without external trauma, one showed signs of radiation exposure. Despite these details, no clear explanation was ever established. Decades later, when the case was revisited, official conclusions continued to change, but none fully accounted for all the evidence. What makes File 1 different is not just the mystery itself, but how it mirrors the others, an official conclusion, physical evidence that does not fully align. A file that was closed not because every question was answered, but because no definitive alternative could be proven. These 5 cases were not ignored. They were investigated, documented, reviewed, and archived by authorities, and still, they remain controversial, not because answers are impossible, but because certainty was declared before clarity was achieved. After reviewing all 5 files, the question is not whether accidents happen. It is how often an accident becomes the final explanation when the evidence leaves room for doubt. Which file raised the most questions for you? This was 5 Files. Subscribe.